So coming full circle back to the very beginning, remember I said that most of the organs have dual innervation. They receive input from both branches of the autonomic nervous system. So again, if I use your heart rate as an example, we could say that your parasympathetic nervous system slows down heart rate, whereas your sympathetic nervous system speeds it up. So not only is the heart innervated by both sides, but usually we have a situation where each of those sides produces an opposite physiological response. The term that we use to describe this is antagonistic control. In other words, the normal function of any organ, whether it's your resting heart rate or motility in the gut or respiration rate or baseline secretion for something, is really determined by the balance between the amount of sympathetic stimulation that it's receiving and the amount of parasympathetic stimulation that it's receiving at any given point. So just like muscles have tone, most other organs have tone as well, determined by the autonomic nervous system. Now, the idea of antagonistic control seems straightforward, but it can get a little bit challenging when we start looking at some applied examples. And so one of the ways that we can think about antagonistic control is to imagine that most of the organs inside the body have both a gas pedal and a brake pedal. So if we were thinking of heart rate, then we could say that your sympathetic nervous system is like the gas pedal, makes it go faster. And your parasympathetic nervous system is like the brake pedal. It's gonna slow it down a little bit. But if you've spent any time driving, then you know that there's actually two ways that you can slow down your car. So one way is you can actively press the brake pedal with your foot. That would be like stimulating the parasympathetic nervous system. But the other way that you can slow down your car is by taking your foot off of the gas pedal. That would be like inhibiting the sympathetic nervous system. So like I said, even though the concept of antagonistic control isn't too challenging, it can become complicated, especially when we start thinking about the pharmacology and different drugs that can stimulate or inhibit these different types of receptors. Because it's almost always the case that there's two ways to produce any type of response. One way is to stimulate one side of the autonomic nervous system, but usually we can have the same effect by inhibiting the opposite side. And all of that is because of antagonistic control. And in fact, there's very few situations inside the body where we don't have antagonistic control. There are some examples in the circulatory system and in the reproductive system. And so we're going to save our discussion of those until the next half of the course when we actually talk about those units in a little bit more detail.